This short PowerPoint will explain what we need to focus on to elect better conservatives, and the first step is to take over one of the political parties. I'm going to explain to you how to do it and why to do it. But first, let's look at what conservatives seem to focus on. Here's a list of issues. Go ahead and read through it. Issues, issues, issues. That's all we talk about, instead of what we really need to be talking about. So I think it's fair to say that we know what the problems are. So if you want to have some fun, go onto an internet conservative chat group where issues are being discussed, and for every issue, simply ask this question to the ranter: what do you propose we do about it? For those of us here in Arizona, this is the first step. We have to get into the Republican Party precinct committeeman slots, a warm conservative body. We have to fill up all of the slots with conservatives. I'm going to explain why we have to do that and how simple it is to do that. So we have to step back for a minute. We're in a political war. Political wars are fought by political parties. They're not fought by other organizations. They're not fought by tea parties. We need a conservative political party to destroy both the rhinos, the Republicans in name only, who are in our party, and the Democrats. There's a political party that we can transform into a conservative political party. That party that we need to transform is the Republican Party. Steve Bannon recently said in one of his talks to a conservative group, well, obviously we have to take over the Republican Party. Well, if it's so obvious, why aren't conservatives doing it? And what would a takeover of this type look like? And what is the Republican Party, quote unquote? The Republican Party is embodied in the Republican National Committee members and the state party committees and the precinct committeemen who make up those state party committees. At the RNC level, there's 168 members of that committee, 3 from each state, from the District of Columbia, and the 5 territories. This chart, which is key to this discussion, sets forth graphically who elects the 3 Arizona Republican members of the RNC. On the right side, it explains how precinct committeemen elect at their organizational meeting 1 state committeeman for every 3 of them. And they then meet the state committeeman at an organizational meeting for the state committee, whereby they elect the Arizona GOP chairman. He serves for 2 years on the RNC. So that's real political power. Precinct committeeman electing the AZ GOP chairman. On the left side of the chart, it explains how the same precinct committeeman in the presidential election year have a special meeting where they and only they elect the delegates to the state presidential nominating convention. What happens there? Those delegates elected by the precinct committeeman elect the national committeeman to the RNC and the national committeewoman to the RNC. They both serve 4-year terms on the RNC. Those same delegates elect the delegates for the Arizona Republican Party to go to the National Republican Convention. That's real political power. Precinct committeemen have all the power. So when you think of the Republican Party and how strong it is, both nationally and here in Arizona, is this what you see in your mind, a full glass? Well, if that's what you see, a full glass, in reality, this is what it really is. It's half strength or less right now. So on the left on this slide, the current status of our party is depicted. Half of the precinct committeeman slots are vacant. Those that are filled, there's about a 50-50 split between conservatives and moderates. So we have a half-strength, ideologically split party with no message and no ground game. If conservatives filled up all the vacancies, we'd have what's on the right, a bigger party, stronger party at full strength, with a 75% conservative majority, electing conservatives to all the officer positions, including at the RNC, and we'd have a much better get out the vote ground game for conservative candidates in the all-important, traditionally very low turnout primary elections. So here's the big question for those of you who are not yet precinct committeemen. If you only had about 3 hours a month to devote to politics, how best could you use that time for the greatest effect? What you should be doing is getting every conservative you know to become a precinct committeeman in the Arizona Republican Party. And it's really up to each one of us. It's up to you. We, the people, have to fix this problem that we have in this country. We've got to do it through good old-fashioned American civic action. It's our duty as Americans to do this for ourselves and for our kids. This is a silver bullet. There's no silver bullet solution to our dilemma. No knight in shining armor is going to save us. Unfortunately, George Washington is not going to reappear to save us. The Founding Fathers told us in the first 3 words of the preamble to the Constitution that it's we the people who have to be the guardians of our Constitution. And I'll just read this, bear with me. We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States. Only we the people can preserve our Constitution and force those who we elect to follow it. So if you go onto the internet, into conservative chat rooms, these are some of the silver bullets you'll hear bandied about. If only we had term limits. If only we had a convention of states. If only we would repeal the 16th Amendment. If only we would repeal the 17th Amendment. And when Obama was president, if only we could impeach him. Well, in order to do any of those things, there's one thing that you have to do first. And I hope you've guessed it by now. The first thing we have to do is we have to get every precinct committeeman slot in the Arizona Republican Party filled with a conservative. Because, for example, the only way we will ever get term limits is if we first elect better people who would go about enacting that for themselves. So as everybody knows, politics is a game of numbers. The most powerful political office holder is the precinct committeeman. Across the nation, the Republican Party has about 400,000 of these volunteer, unpaid, part-time offices, and about half of them are vacant, which is a huge opportunity. In other words, the party's there for conservatives to take it over if they would fill these slots. The Maricopa County Republican Party has anywhere, this is just the average number that they have is around 6,400. That varies based on voter registration. But right now, 40% of them are vacant. So what is our ultimate goal? I hope you've guessed it. The first thing we have to do, our first goal, has to be getting into every precinct committeeman slot in the Arizona Republican Party a conservative. So, more numbers, bear with me. Right now in Arizona, there's about 10,000 Republican precinct committeeman slots because there's one PC for approximately every 125 registered Republicans in each precinct. We have about 1,258,000 registered Republicans right now. So, knowing that only about 4,000 of the PC slots of those 10,000 slots are filled, we've got to fill 6,000 slots. There's 1,254,748 registered Republicans who aren't doing something inside the party. You think maybe some of them are conservatives, and if they were presented with a really good explanation as to how powerful the office of precinct committeeman is and why it's important for them to become one, they might do it. Well, we've got to find them and we've got to try to recruit them. No? So again, where are the conservatives that we need to unite? They run the gamut. They're in all sorts of different conservative groups, like, for example, the Sarah PAC, the evangelical Christian groups, the Tea Partier groups, the Smart Girl Politics group, the Pro-Second Amendment groups, the Right to Lifers, the 912ers, the As a Mom group, which I think has disbanded, Patriot Action Network, which too I think may have disbanded. Regardless, there's lots of other groups like this. And the problem is they're splintered right now. But if they wanted to become powerful with other conservatives, they need to unite. And the place to unite is in the local political party committees. So where to start? Start with your own political neighborhood, your voting precinct. Start with the fellow conservatives you know as precinct committeemen already, and try to work with them to recruit in your legislative district. Your only limitation is your imagination. You're Americans. You can figure this out on your own. So here's the strategy in a nutshell. I'm going to read this to make it something that I hope you'll start to remember. Precinct committeemen are the card-carrying members of a political party. They elect the party leaders, and they are in the best position to get out the vote with the other precinct committeemen in their precincts. Right now, over half of the precinct committeeman slots are vacant in both of the two major political parties. If conservatives would fill up all of the precinct committeeman slots in those parties, they would own the party. And instead of that party being at half strength and ideologically split, it would become solidly conservative with conservative leaders and a full strength get out the vote ground game. In other words, if you are a conservative, you need to become a precinct committeeman. There's plenty of slots available, as I've already pointed out. And why do you want to become a precinct committeeman? Only precinct committeemen elect the political party officers. Precinct committeemen essentially are the party. Only precinct committeemen can vote to endorse candidates in the primary. If you have a majority of precinct committeemen on any given committee and the bylaws allow it, you can vote to endorse the best conservative candidate in the primary. And precinct committeemen are key for effective get out the vote efforts in each voting precinct. Again, real quickly, conservatives need to unite in a single party, in the party apparatus, to take it over, and that means taking over the Republican Party at the precinct level. So just don't take my word for this. Harry Truman said this in a speech after he left the presidency. Quote, "One of the fundamental lessons I have learned is this. In politics, the work that is done in the precincts is the work that counts most." Close quote. And he's correct. Some of you may be familiar with what President Abraham Lincoln said back in 1840 in a letter to a friend about organizing to get out the vote before telephones. Quote, the whole state must be so well organized that every Whig can be brought to the polls. So divide the county into small districts and appoint in each a committee. Make a perfect list of the voters and ascertain with certainty for whom they will vote. Keep a constant watch on the doubtful voters and have them talked to by those in whom they have the most confidence. On election day, see that every Whig is brought to the polls. Close quote. This is what precinct committeemen do. It doesn't take a lot of time. It's easy with the phone, and it really makes a huge difference. So a little bit more on our pathetic conservative state of affairs using Arizona as an example. 40% of our PC slots are unfilled. In 2008, less than a third of them were filled. So we've been going into battle against the Democrats with a half-strength party where it counts at the precinct level. Our party has been ideologically split because conservatives stay home and rhinos run the party. So is your precinct filled? Is your legislative district committee filled? There's very few precincts that are filled, and no legislative district has all its slots filled, not even close. So whose fault is that? It's my fault, it's your fault, it's our fault. Go get a mirror. We're all at fault because we haven't been doing this and we haven't been recruiting others to do it. This is basic American civics. So will you help turn our party into a full-strength, solidly conservative party? And watch out, because if we don't do this, if we conservatives don't do this, maybe the libertarians will get their act together. I doubt it, but they've tried. The Koch brothers could do this tomorrow. I don't understand why they won't do it. I'm glad they don't. So no cavalry is going to come save us, and most Tea Partiers really don't get it. They think that rallies work to do something. They don't. They think screaming at Congress critters at town hall meetings will cause them to change. It won't. Online petitions don't work. Public policy groups don't work to change anything. The progressives, the leftists, the rhinos, they couldn't care less what is said to them by anyone. The thing that matters and only matters is replacing them at the ballot box. The only way to take back our government is to elect better people. The only way to elect better people is to have conservatives running the Republican Party. The only way to have conservatives running the Republican Party is to have a majority of conservatives in the party voting slots, the precinct committeeman slots. So the only people who can make this happen are we, the conservative Republican Party precinct committeeman people, period. There is no other way to do this. So will you do it? Again, the only way is to focus on this and make it happen. Have every precinct committeeman slot in the Arizona Republican Party filled with a conservative. We won't get every slot filled, but we need a strong working majority of them, and we can do that. Again, start with your precinct. Start with your fellow precinct committeemen, if you already are one, that are conservatives in your legislative district. But do something to make this happen. Your only limitation is your imagination. And to boil it all down, there's 3 simple steps for making this happen. First, pray. Second, recruit. Third, repeat. Pray, recruit, repeat. Because right now, this is the current state of affairs, and we've got to change that to this. So, conservatives must unite and organize for real political action in, wait for it, a political party. The best political party, and it's just a tool, is the Republican Party. And it's there for the taking for conservatives. So, become a precinct committeeman. Recruit every other conservative you know and can find to become one. That's why I am giving you this information. I want you to do it. I've done it. Please do as I have done. Again, and I think this is the last time you'll see this in this presentation, our goal, immediate goal, is to get every precinct committeeman slot in the Arizona Republican Party filled with a conservative. So keep calm, deplorable swamp drainers, and keep recruiting Trump supporters to become Republican Party precinct committeemen to drain the GOP establishment's swamp. So this strategy works. I've done it in my precinct and elsewhere. Who's on board with it? Blogging about politics isn't going to elect better people. Writing articles about the problems isn't going to elect better people. Rallies and yelling at Congress critters at town hall meetings is not going to elect better people. After this presentation, it's up to you to find conservatives like you and get them to become precinct committeemen. This is a bottom-up strategy. Again, there's anywhere, at one time there was about 12,000 Republican PC slots in Arizona, but even then only 40% were filled. We've got about 400,000 of these slots across the United States. Only about half are filled. Shall we get this done? So here's the resources page. It's my little precinct project blog. Be a PC is something in Maricopa County that a conservative created for the Maricopa County GOP. My strategy set forth in this presentation is in the book Takeover by Richard Viguerie. I've written extensively about this at Breitbart.com. I wrote a book about this on Amazon. There's the title, and it's self-explanatory. And you can contact me there at my email address or my cell phone. I hope this has been hopeful and will cause you to actually get involved in the real ball game of politics. Thank you.